India today is second to none. India is today at par with some of the global powers.
Revolutions, we need to bring this entrepreneurial revolution. So this will involve change in mindsets. And what else would it need?
A revolution happens, it cannot be brought up. Being an entrepreneur in today's world is an imperative and it's not an alternative.
So we have ChatGPTs, Geminis, but in India's name, because we have so many people of our country, engineers and scientists. How come we still don't have AI, any website or platform in India's name?
Every startup, every idea today has an element of AI in it.
Currently, where does Indian startups stand in a global level?
The diversity of startups does not match the diversity of our country itself. There is hope because cities like Mysore, where we are sitting and doing this conversation, are also waking up to a startup.
I have knowledge on the subject, but I don't know how to do a business. So, what's my first step and how do we start?
What is your goal? Where do you want to take it? And what is the plan to get to that goal?
Now, how do we push this further to make a brand or an empire?
The game of scaling, which requires you to capture the imagination of your prospective customer.
Features or characteristics you see of successful entrepreneurs versus the others?
They are able to see things far more clearly than many others.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Vichar podcast. I am Suhas Raghavan Iyengar, a student from grade 10 Purna Chetana, the 21st Century Bharathiya School. Today we have an eminent personality among us. Welcome Ravi Shankar Sir. He is the CEO of the AIM High Consultancy and has steered leading brands to success. Additionally, he is an author and columnist with publishing over 1,000 articles in leading dailies and has also authored 6 books. Welcome, sir, to the Vichar podcast. We're extremely pleased to have you here with us today.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
So, sir, first of all, I want to go back to many centuries ago, where Bharat, or India as we know it today, was the hub of civilization. We had what was previously known as the Golden Era, where we were extremely rich in knowledge, in mathematics, in science, in architecture, in astronomy. We had spices, we had textiles, and all of this made us one of the richest countries around the globe. Now, if we fast forward this to many centuries later, coming to the present world today, our markets are dominated by American brands and American startups. We see Amazon, Microsoft, Google, X, we have ChatGPT from OpenAI. So, what has caused this westward paradigm shift in the world currently?
Let's introspect. Is there really a westward paradigm shift, or are we still in the golden era?
Right.
I would like to assume that we are still in that golden era. I don't know about the past, okay? That must have been a golden phase. I'm sure we dominated the world. I'm sure the world came seeking Indian stuff, okay? We have all read about that in history, and my guess is as good as yours about how our role was such a dominant role in world history. But I feel we are not any less today. We continue to dominate the world. Over the last, let's say, 25 to 50 years, we have done what our predecessors have done and have done India proud. Look at all of the companies that you spoke of, Suhas.
Right.
Okay. Who form the backbone of those companies? It is India's tech talent. Okay. If you spoke of America, okay, whether it's American healthcare system or the American technologies that rule the world, all of that is quintessentially Indian. Okay, it's the
True.
Indians who are there in these companies, and they are the ones who have built that technology. They are the ones who have crafted that healthcare system. They are the doctors that are caring for the health of the citizens of those countries. Okay, so I, I feel that it's a fallacy to believe that there was a golden era and it's not there anymore when you are almost, let's say, one fourth of the world's population. Okay, and when you are spread across the world, when you are doing great stuff even today with global companies and stuff like that, we continue to rule the world. It's just that we have not declared to everybody that we are ruling the world. It's We continue to dominate when it comes to technology, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to multiple other aspects. In fact, the good news is, in the last few years, in some of these companies, even the leadership roles are Indian. So I feel that we should feel proud. Yes, we should feel proud of history about what we had achieved. We should equally be proud of what we are continuing to achieve. It is possible that some of those companies have looked at global markets. That's a wide variety of reasons. We can continue to debate that in this podcast. But long story short, India being such a huge market in itself and such a wonderful heterogeneous mass, Indian businesses, Indian startups can easily scale to the world. But the market here itself is so big that many times the need itself doesn't arise for you to go beyond, number one. And number two, even in those companies that are dominating the world, it's the Indians that are really calling the shots.
Sir, so as you said, we Indians, we produce, the largest number of engineers, scientists, we have doctors, and we have in so many other fields. But why don't we have, the Indian Bill Gates, the Indian Elon Musk, the Indian Mark Zuckerberg, and so on? Where are we lacking in that aspect where we have the Indians as the leaders and respecting, in respect to India, from India's standpoint?
So, more than the kind of names that you spoke of, I guess it is a certain sense of lack of pride. Or maybe going back to your first question, perhaps because we take great pride in being stuck in the past and not glorifying the leaders of today's times, the business leaders of today's times, that we don't see some of these. Whether somebody is as big as a Bill Gates or a Mark Zuckerberg is a different thing altogether. But can you name a person who has built three unicorns? Nobody else in the world has achieved that feat. An Indian who has built three unicorns? You know what a unicorn is? Yeah.
Billion, more
Yeah, a
than,
company that achieves a $1 billion
Mukesh
valuation in a
Ambani.
very short period of time. Okay. Bhavish Agarwal, who built Ola, has built a total of three unicorns: Ola, Ola Electric, and Krutrim AI, first AI a unicorn. Okay, and all in a matter of less than a decade. Okay, so I'm saying, why aren't we celebrating Bhavish Agarwal? uh, Sachin Bansal, who was Sachin and Binny Bansal, who were the poster boys for the Indian startup revolution, the third wave of startups which triggered off in 2007. Why don't we celebrate them? Why don't we talk about them? Why do we, um, just keep talking about the past? I think the issue is we need to celebrate the present as much as we celebrate the past, and only then we will be able to see our own leaders and not just look westward for inspiration. There is enough inspiration around us as well. I'm saying today, slowly that consciousness is growing. People are talking about the business leaders, some entrepreneurs and stuff like that. But I still feel that it needs to take the proportion of a revolution. Okay, the kind that when Lal Bahadur Shastri said "Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan," like that. I think we need to coin a phrase which also involves, the startup leaders, the navodyamis of today, the entrepreneurs. We need to celebrate entrepreneurship and, slowly indoctrinate the thing of, hey, you know what? If somebody is building a business and making money for himself while he is taking care of the society at large and becoming an employer, it's not such a bad thing. Okay, so I feel it's a mindset change that is called for, Suhas, and that's the reason why perhaps we don't see so many icons. It's not that they are not there; it's just that we are perhaps not seeing them. Of course, I'm saying many people who would have built those global companies. Okay, when I say global, large businesses. Okay, their names would be perhaps a lot more familiar than the names that otherwise are there around us. But that's only a natural thing, and the day an in, but who's the world looking up to? I'm saying, who's the CEO of Microsoft? Who's the CEO of Google's Alphabet? They're all Indians, and Indian names are being discussed today with as much alacrity as some of the other leaders that you spoke of. But what happens is that when a huge personality brand is built, it takes some time for those older names to wane away and for the newer names to gain prominence. Even today, for example, in India, if you talk to people about business, they will talk about Tata Birla. Okay, so that's the thing that first comes to their mind. That's because that is what is, they are using those names as icons, as symbols, and not really, referring to a particular Tata, a particular Birla. In fact, if you ask them to name a Tata or a Birla, they'll struggle to name a particular person. And if you ask them to enunciate on their achievement, they will struggle even further. So, what we need to understand is that, I don't know about other forms of leadership, but I'm quite confident that when it comes to entrepreneurial and business leadership, India today is second to none. India is today at par with some of the global powers, despite the constraints.
Sir, so you said we need to bring this new revolution, just like how we had the Jai Jawan Jai Kisan for the Green Revolution and so many other revolutions. We need to bring this entrepreneurial revolution. So this will involve change in mindsets. And what else would it need? Government policies, or could you elaborate on that?
When I didn't say entrepreneurial revolution need to be brought about. A revolution happens. It cannot be brought about. What I meant was like Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, a clarion call that also involves entrepreneurship. But then, to answer your question, we need to very clearly indoctrinate, tell, students like you that being an entrepreneur in today's world is an imperative and it's not an alternative. Okay, that you don't have a choice but to be an entrepreneur. Okay, while that might sound very harsh, that might sound like, I mean, what is this? And how can everybody be an entrepreneur? The good news is there couldn't have been a better time than today to be an entrepreneur. Why? Because I keep saying this, entrepreneurship requires three things, three capitals. What are they? Number one, financial capital, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. To start a business, to start an enterprise, you need money. Today, thankfully, it's not so difficult to raise money, either in the form of grants or in the form of debt or in the form of equity. Okay, there are several governmental programs, okay, starting from central government, Startup India Seed Fund, to our own state governments, Elevate. There are, and a wide range of other things in between. There are hundreds of grants available to entrepreneurs, even at a very, very early stage. Okay, from the stage of, uh, a plan just being there
Plan.
on paper to taking it to POC. POC is proof of concept to taking it to the next level of MVP, minimum viable proposition kind of a thing. It's a wide range of things. You have grants available. You have angel investors who are waiting to put money into very early stage ideas so that they can get their multiples as the business grows. There are several investors at various levels, early stage level, seed level, then there are series A, B, C kind of thing, all the way up to IPOs. We have seen multiple examples of some of these things happening right in front of us, and rest assured, for the right kind of idea and the ability to execute. Okay, please hear me out very carefully. Many times in schools and even in the wider world, people live in the a thing of, hey, if I have an idea, I can build an enterprise. No, gone are the days. I'm saying, if you have an idea, I have 5 ideas. Okay. If you have 10, I'll match it up with another multiple of 5. Okay. So everybody has an idea. Okay. It's not the idea that counts. What counts is the diligence to take that idea to fruition, which means to think through what is required for me, either in terms of partners or in terms of technology or in terms of the wherewithal required to take that idea to fruition. The ability to execute, rather, is what will get you money in today's times, either in the form of grants or in the form of various funds that I spoke of. So financial capital is taken care of. The second capital that you need, I said 3 C's: human capital. Okay. The second C is human capital. And in a country of 1.4 plus billion people, human capital itself is not an issue. But to sieve out the right kind of talent for the kind of business that you are putting forward, there can be challenges, because you need to have the right sieve to get the right kind of people. Plus, you need to be generous enough to part with your stake, to make an equal partner out of that person, or if it's an employee, to be able to give ESOPs, which is giving them some small stake so that they also participate in the victory of your enterprise as it grows and moves forward. You need to have the ability to do all of those things as well. Okay, so a large-hearted entrepreneurial mindset, which can get the right kind of people to grow along with the enterprise. So human capital available in abundance for the right kind of people, for the right kind of business and a plan to execute that. So that's the second thing. Third C is reputation capital. Okay. So the money or the resources that you would need in order to build the reputation of your business, because at the end of the day, you have built something, you need to take it to the world. How do you take it to the world? You need media for that, or you need a way by which you can get across to your audiences. Go back 10-20 years ago, what would you have to do? You would have to use mass media, and mass media wasn't cheap. Okay, so you had to pay a lot of money in order to get access to your audiences. Today, if you are smart, you will be able to devise campaigns on your own using a combination of social media plus AI plus the various tools that are available for this kind of campaign planning. And the reputation management is in your own hands. Okay, and it's limitless, seamless. Okay, so financial capital, human capital, and reputation capital are all there today at your disposal. And that's the reason why I said, while it is, while being an entrepreneur is imperative and not an alternative, we are also in the best of times for entrepreneurship in a country like ours. Even better news is, slowly but surely, the thing of entrepreneurship is trickling down from just merely being there in large metros to B and C cities as well. And slowly, our country is waking up to the power of entrepreneurship. So it will not be too late before you will start hearing of icons like the ones that you mentioned earlier.
Right. Sir, so investment capital, human capital, and reputation capital. These are the three C's to make India build a business, a startup.
Yeah, absolutely. Any enterprise anywhere, but more relevant to us. Yeah.
Right, sir. So, sir, I wanted to focus in a startup. Why don't we have any AIs coming up, because they're really trending in the current years in India's name. So we have chat GPTs, Geminis, Perplexity, and so on. But because we have so many people of our country, engineers and scientists, how come we still don't have AI, any website or platform in India's name?
Every startup, every idea today that at least I am coming across has an element of AI in it, even in our country. Okay, so anything that anybody is thinking of today, people are thinking of it through the AI lens. You cannot wish it away. Okay, so I don't know what you mean when you say, why don't we have AI? I think, like I said about technology, I mean, a lot of AI of the world has also been built by people like you and me, Indians, and AI is an integral part of technology of tomorrow. And when I say AI, I'm not using AI for AI alone, but I'm using AI as a proxy for AI plus robotics plus automation. I'm saying everything put together. Okay, the power of artificial intelligence which can do stuff for you, kind of a thing. So today you can't imagine any business, okay, without the power of AI. And I feel that Indian entrepreneurs have woken up to that. I go as jury for many of these, like I told you, I mean, places where you give grants and funds and stuff like that. I'm also there, as a mentor for Stanford's Asia. Stanford, like is the number one B school in the world. So for their Asia programs and stuff like that, everywhere it is AI. I'm saying to a point of frustration. I'm saying as if there is nothing else except AI. So there is enough AI not to worry on that. India won't be left behind in the AI race. So yeah, it's not about how big an AI you have, but it is about how well you are able to befriend AI and how well you are able to use it to good effect. And that's going to be unleashed in the next leg of AI. Today's AI is about aggregating information, but in the next leg of AI, I'm sure you'll be initiated into that, is agentic AI, where you are using AI to accomplish tasks and outcomes. And I think we are more than prepared for times like that. When I say we, I'm talking on behalf of the entrepreneurs of our country who are thinking through some of these. I feel that we won't be left behind in that race.
So, sir, in this context, now, currently, where does Indian startups stand in a global level? Could you elaborate on that, sir?
It's very difficult to guesstimate based on business volume. I think if you do that based on business volume, we may not be very high up in that order. I'm sure we will make it to the top 10 easily. But in terms of an evolved entrepreneurial ecosystem, if you take the country as a whole, I am sure we would be in the top 5 globally. And like I told you, startups trickling down beyond cities. I think there was a time when I would in shows like this say, hey, you know what, Indian startup ecosystem is split between Bangalore, NCR, and the rest of the country. Bangalore takes 40%, NCR, the National Capital Region, takes 40%, and the remaining 20% is spread across the country. Not anymore. I feel that, slowly but surely, the startups in our country are also getting geographically spread across. Of course, the diversity of startups does not match the diversity of our country itself. Okay, we all should wish that it happens that way, but there is hope because slowly people in cities like Mysore, where we are sitting and doing this conversation, are also waking up to startups, and you can see the same thing happening in a Mangalore or a Hubli Dharwad or a Coimbatore or Indore, or I mean multiple cities across the country. People are slowly realizing the power and potential of doing a startup.
So, sir, you've given us a new perspective to look at this Indian startups. So, as you've said, India is present globally all over the world, working behind American companies, American startups.
Not just
So,
American,
yeah,
across the world.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, across the world. So, could you give us like maybe compare, an Indian startup to a foreign one, let's say American Flipkart versus Amazon kind of comparison, and tell us, where we will improve, where we are better, and where we are a bit less need
Yeah.
to improve.
Yeah. Without going into a specific example, let me
Right.
tell you
Okay.
what our big strength is. Our big strength is our heterogeneity. Okay, the fact that we are a heterogeneous, diverse country which speaks so many languages, which is hugely geographically dispersed, which has cultural diversity as well, linguistic diversity, cultural diversity,
Resources.
geographic dispersion, all kinds of stuff. The landscape is also, varied from hills to coasts to what have you. So, what that gives us, coupled with the kind of huge population that we have, is enormous potential to experiment plus a large market to cater to. Okay. Whilst another startup in another country, okay, and I will not just take the example of US, but it can be across multiple countries, will have to do their, and I'm assuming this for B2C kind of startups. B2B is a different thing altogether. B2C is business to consumer, and B2B is business to business. In a business to consumer kind of a scenario, you are limited by the homogeneous mass that you are catering to. Okay, so in an ideal scenario, and we will see that play out, in the years to come, Indian startups will have the potential to scale globally far more quickly as compared to, other country startups, because, we would have accounted for so many scenarios because of the heterogeneity that I spoke of. Okay, so, but the limiting factor, like I said earlier, is that the market itself is so huge, okay, that you don't think of other things. Okay, so you'll do an Indian startup. Which is the next biggest population? China. Okay, China, I don't know how it is. So let me just, block China out in my head. And then the cost of now taking this to, so many of those European countries and US and this thing, and all for, smaller populations in all of those places, perhaps is not exciting enough for me, or there isn't enough incentive for me to go there, and therefore I'm guessing, and my guess is only as good as yours, okay, is perhaps the reason why I will say, hey, you know what, boss, 1/4 of the world is sitting here. And, therefore, let me build something for here. Indian startups catering to India alone. Why so much so? Startups in a city catering to that city itself sometimes will be as big as a countrywide startup in another country. Let's say, if you take examples of, let's say, more than 50% of European countries, okay, the population of Mysore is, matching many of those countries. So, I'm not too worried about those numbers. Okay, that number is not so attractive for me to, venture out and go there and, look at those kind of markets. So, I mean, look at it either as a positive or as a limiting factor. But the thing is, there is enough potential in our country for every district, let us say, to have a good number of startups. Okay, a good number of large startups and a huge number of mid-sized startups and n number of small-sized startups. And that's what we need to look up to. Not everything that begins need to scale and become a unicorn. I'm saying, and that's not going to be the norm, because we have seen that in all of these years, India has created only 100 plus unicorns. So unicorn is not the norm. It's just that unicorns get highlighted. Just like some of those companies that you spoke of, which are global today, got highlighted worldwide. Even in our country, unicorns get highlighted. Yeah, well, they are wonderful. They are North Stars. We need to look up to them and we need to say, hey, great, we need to become like them. But that's like saying everybody needs to become a Sachin Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli. I'm saying that's not going to happen. But as long as you are going to play to your potential, okay, you still have a lot to take home, is the feeling that we need to sort of ingrain in the minds of students like you. And that's why I was trying to tell you that, hey, being an entrepreneur is not an alternative but an imperative, and there is lots for you to look forward to. And in a scenario where not everybody is going to get a job for various reasons, starting from AI to jobs becoming scarce otherwise in the government sector, in the private sector and stuff like that, you better prepare to become an employer rather than an employee. And everybody is going to be an entrepreneur of one flavor or the other, and I'll explain that, what I mean by everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. So you've heard of the word intrapreneur. Intrapreneur is somebody who's an employee in an organization, behaving like an entrepreneur. Okay, so that is going to be an expectation of everybody in the days to come. Okay, why? Because till now, how were people paid? People were paid based on the time that they gave. Okay, I'm going to give you so many days in a month. Okay, I'm an employee. I'm giving so many days in a month and so much time in a day, and I'm being compensated for time. That will go, or is already going, in some cases gone. Okay, and is giving rise to a scenario where you will get paid only for the outcomes that you generate. Okay, how you are going to generate those outcomes is your lookout. Okay, you can use AI, you can use this, you can use that. Okay, you need to be resourceful enough, entrepreneurial enough to create those outcomes, and somebody is going to hire you not for the time that you are giving them, but for the outcomes that you are going to generate for them. I'm saying we call it casually gig work, but this is a lot more than gig work. This is some kind of an entrepreneurial work, I will call it. Okay, and that's what you're going to be drafted in for, and that's what you're going to be judged by. And schools like this and everybody else needs to prepare for a world like that, where not anybody is going to be an employee, but is going to be an entrepreneur of some flavor or the other, either having his or her own business, or in his or her own right, generating outcomes for somebody else, but with an entrepreneurial outlook.
Sir, now that you've enlightened on so many topics related to where India stands, and you've given this feeling of us realizing how valued we are and how we must look into that and not just get glamored by the foreign nations. We need to realize what strength is within us. Sir, now can you guide us through? Suppose I'm a small I'm a person and I want to make a small enterprise. I want to start a startup. So from scratch, I have knowledge on the subject, but I don't know how to do a business. So what's my first step and how do we start? Could you guide?
You already accomplished this first step when you said you have knowledge on the subject. Okay, so having domain knowledge is the knowledge of the domain in which you plan to start your enterprise or business is the first step. If you say you're having knowledge there, then that's beautiful. That's first step accomplished.
Right.
Second, okay, what is your goal? Where do you want to take it? Who would you need to collaborate with in order to take this to a goal? And what is the plan to get to that goal? We call it a business plan. So to write that, and what are the resources that you need? I spoke of the three resources that you would need, investment and human resource and reputation capital and all of those things. So how would you get that? Would you be able to do it with your own money, or would you need somebody else to invest into this? If you need somebody else to invest into this, what's in it for them? Okay. And that's a question that you need to ask at every stage. What is in it for them? Why should somebody back me while there could be 10 people like me trying to do a similar business? So what's in it for them? To create an incentive for them to back you. What's in it for the employees, who you will hire? And you might, like I said in my previous answer, you might not be able to hire somebody's full time with the kind of limited resources that you have, because like I told you, everybody would have gotten into this entrepreneurial kind of a thing where you need to hire perhaps only those outcomes. So how will you hire those outcomes? How will you incentivize them for creating better outcomes for you? So to think through all of that, and to estimate if there is really a market for the offering that you are planning. It could be a product, it could be a service, or whatever offering that you might have in your mind. So is there a big enough, addressable enough market for that? And what's the reason why somebody will buy your offering as compared to your competitor's offering? What is the differentiator that is there? Okay, is it price? Is it quality? Is it something else? Better features, better whatever. So what is it that you are building? So to think through all of these and to integrate it into a plan, and then to draft a go-to-market plan with timelines where you're accounting for possible failures as well. Okay, this is what I plan to do in the first year, but if possibly this doesn't happen, then I could perhaps take a turn in this direction and could try and accomplish that. We call it pivots and stuff like that. We'll keep that for another day. But so how will you go about achieving that? If plan A doesn't work, what happens? Where is your plan B? Where does that put you? How will your investors continue to back you if your plan A isn't working? What is the expectation that you're setting with them? What about your own people? All of that, I'm saying. So it's horses for courses. Every business, every enterprise is different, and the thinking through on each of those will have to be separate. There's no one answer, one size fits all kind of a thing. There isn't one answer where I can tell you, hey, you know what, this is how you build a business. But the good news again here is that there are today enough mentors, enough incubators, enough accelerators helping and supporting entrepreneurs even of your age. Okay, today can go, and even in a city like Mysore, there'll be at least 2-3 incubators who will entertain you. If you say, hey, you know what, I have this idea, I want to build this business, they'll say, come, we'll give you space. You sit here, you work. Oh, what do you need access to? You need somebody who's an expert in, let's say you are doing an agri kind of a startup. Okay, agri related expert. Okay, let me connect you with this kind of a professor, with this kind of a guy who has done an agri startup earlier. So this is how we will help you collaborate. Oh, you need market access? Great. There is something happening, some kind of a fair that is coming up. Hey, it's at least a research opportunity, even if it's not a selling opportunity for you. Let me put you in there. So I just gave one random example, but like that, for anything today that you are willing to do, there is a collaborative ecosystem that is available for you. There's a nurturing ecosystem that's available for you in the form of incubators, accelerators, mentors, many times, investors who have their own, setup like that, governmental grants and things like that. So if you have the right intent, the right idea, the right kind of diligence or the mindset to put your head down and work and to craft out the size of the market, your audience, your potential for this product, and differentiators and all of those other things that I said. I mean, it's like you'll have to do a full-fledged MBA or an equivalent of that to comprehend the whole gamut of things. But today all of the knowledge about all of these things is available to you free of cost online if you go to the right kind of resources. So to develop that also is not difficult. I keep saying 99% of all the knowledge that is there in this world is available free of cost. Only 1% is behind paywalls and is behind the walls of a few universities and stuff like that, but otherwise everything is available free. So that's also another reason why this is the best time to be an entrepreneur, because you are not limited by knowledge, you are not limited by capital, you are not limited by the number of people who could potentially collaborate with and all of that. So if you have an idea and the knowledge of the domain, you have already made a good start. Go ahead.
So when you say idea and knowledge, does the idea for an entrepreneur have to be new, or can businesses work on already existing ideas and try to, do it more efficiently?
Yeah, I mean, it could be either, but a startup is defined by two things. Okay, generally, I mean, every rule has an exception, but
Okay.
generally it is defined by, is there something innovative at its core? Okay, number one. Number two, is it scalable? Scalable means, is it replicable? Can it grow at a rapid pace? This is what determines whether it is a startup or not. Otherwise, what's the difference between you opening another provision store next door, and then you have better display and stuff like that? Then if you are calling yourself a startup, then I laugh at you. I mean, not me, but
Okay.
others might laugh at you. Okay, so if it is just another business, and if you are just saying that I'm doing it better than everybody else, again, there, how much better? What is the delta? And what is it that caused you to do it so much better than everybody else that it can be considered an innovative way of doing it? Then, okay, I'll still call it a startup, I'll still call it a new way of this thing. So, what is that innovation which creates that, delta that will determine whether you can call it a startup or another business that where you're putting money and you're doing something that is better than this thing because there's an opportunity. So that's what distinguishes a business from entrepreneurship. When you are being an entrepreneur, you are venturing out into a hitherto untrodden territory. Okay, that's when you can call yourself an entrepreneur, much like an adventurer. If you are taking the trodden path, then you are perhaps doing another business. Not saying that one is lesser than the other, not saying that one is better than the other, but we need to understand the distinction, and your rewards will be disproportionately greater if you are doing a an enterprise rather than if you are just doing another business.
So sir, now you've guided us on how to build a startup. Now, how do we push this further to make a brand or an empire? How do we push that, the public relations and all those factors in, when to do it, and how do you know that you're ready to push it further? Could you?
Yeah, so once you find a reasonable amount of adoption for your product or service amongst a set of consumers, then the game of scaling, which requires you to capture the imagination of your prospective customers, which is where the role of a brand comes into play, and the reputation capital and the things that I spoke of comes into play very strongly. And today, like I told you, the good news is that yeah, it's in your hands to try and scale. Of course, you need the help of mass media at some point, but I'm saying to a large extent, you can do a lot of stuff yourself. When I say yourself, you with a team. So you should be able to do that. So to capture the imagination of people means getting their trust. Okay, when will they trust you? So I mean, again, a long lesson. I'll have to get you to do a course on this for me to, to give the, but in simple terms, to create positive moments of truth. Okay. What are these moments of truth? A moment of truth happens when a brand comes in contact with its real customer. Okay. When the customer experiences a brand really, okay, when he holds it in his hand or when he experiences the service of something, is when he is subconsciously evaluating whether the brand has lived up to its promise or not. Okay, so that's why we are calling it the moment of truth. Okay, so if the brand has lived up to its promise or done even better than what it has promised, then A, it leaves me happy. B, I might even talk about it to others, and that's like, the best way of a brand getting across to somebody else through word of mouth and stuff like that. 3, I might become a repeat customer. Right? I might keep coming back to this. So, to strive to reach as many audiences as possible who might want to, buy your product or service. 2, to create these positive moments of truth for them is the way to scale a brand. So I'm saying, like, I'm oversimplifying it, but this is not the way to do it. But because you asked, I did not want to say another day for this answer.
Thank you, sir. Sir, what qualities? So you've experienced about 2 decades almost in the industry of entrepreneurship. So what features or characteristics do you see of successful entrepreneurs versus the others?
Yeah. So I can go on talking about it, but few quick ones. One, clarity. Okay, they are able to see things far more clearly than many others. Okay, for example, let us say when cash on delivery was introduced, and there were worries of people running away with cash, the delivery people and stuff, or when some products were being delivered, people, expensive products, people, snatching it from the delivery boys and stuff like that. I got a chance to ask the founder of Flipkart, Sachin Bansal, with whom we were working, what will you do in these kind of scenarios? His answer was, if I worry about 2%, I will not be able to serve the remaining 98%. I will factor this 2% into my 98% plan. Okay, so that's clarity for you. Okay, or for that matter, when Bhavish Agarwal, the founder of Ola, like I told you, the guy who, only guy perhaps on this planet who has created 3 unicorns, he came to my office in an auto rickshaw for the first time, 15 years ago. And why auto rickshaw? Because there was no Ola at that point in time, because he was creating Ola. And he said, I am going to build the largest cab company in the country without ever owning a single cab. Turned out to be true, even in just 5 years. Without ever owning. See, one thing to say, I'll create the largest cab company. But another thing to say, without ever owning a single cab. Look at the kind of clarity. Okay, clarity is the first characteristic. Second is courage of conviction. Where, okay, to extend that Ola example, we asked him, hey, people seem to be stoning your cabs, and a few days later, Easy and Meru were also there, airport cabs and stuff like that. The auto guys, some other guys, whose business was disrupted as a result of Ola, would break the cars and stuff like that, and hurt the drivers and stuff like that. So when we asked him, so what will you do? It's already such a bad scenario. So when you scale to a bigger this thing, won't you be affected even more? Bhavish said, first they will beat us, eventually they will join us. Okay. Turned out to be true. Today everybody is on Ola and Uber and on all of these platforms. The same people who would have tried to at some point stop are on this already. So courage of conviction is the second. Third is resilience. Resilience. Okay. Fourth is adaptability. Adaptability, where Charles Darwin said it for the human species, the same holds true for entrepreneurship as well. It's not the strongest, it's not the fastest, but it's the animal that can adapt itself well to its environment that will survive the most. So I can keep on going on and on about it. The characteristics like integrity and honesty are also equally important, but yeah, you asked me for a few characters and these are a few.
Right, sir. So the means clarity, courage, resilience, and dedication to the subject that makes successful around the other ones.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you've already given throughout this entire podcast lessons to me, lessons to all of us. What lessons do you have for the students who are aspiring entrepreneurs, and how they can make India a bigger country?
Yeah. So I have only one thing to say, and that was said not by me, but by I think Albert Einstein. He said there are only two kinds of people in this world: those who are interested and those who are not interested. Okay, which is those who look at the world with wide-eyed wonder, as though everything is a miracle, and those who look at the world with boredom, those who couldn't care less about anything. This I know already. This is boring, kind of a thing. So those who are interested and those who are not interested. These are the two kinds of people that the world is split into. Please try to stay on the side of the former. Okay. Be interested in everything. Don't lose. See, all of us suffer from the same disease. I keep saying this. Okay, all of us, you, me, all of us. What's the disease? It's called ADD, attention deficit disorder. Okay, the social media that is there around us today has subjected us to that. 30 seconds, everything needs to get over. I need to, get a high, and then, I need to move on to the next sentiment in the next reel, which might be completely unrelated to the previous reel that I saw. We live in a world like that, okay? And in a world like that, those who are able to sustain their interest beyond 30 seconds, 30 minutes, 30 days, 300 days, okay, whatever, as long as they can, will be the ones who will win in life as much as in entrepreneurship. So be interested. And the only way to be interested is to, initially at least, force yourself. Slowly start enjoying the pleasures of slightly longer form stuff, and then you will realize how valuable, how virtuous it is than just shorter form. And in that light, I'm very happy that you are doing a podcast. Podcast is a longer form thing. Okay, it can't get over in 30 seconds. It takes an hour plus. In a case like this, and there are podcasts which are 3 hours and stuff like that also. So this is one long form stuff, but books like these, okay, and multiple other longer form stuff is what we need to slowly sort of get used to, and become interested in the world around you. That will give you insights to life as much as it will give insights to your entrepreneurship, where if you want to study consumer behavior, where will you get those insights from? Okay, you can't that day Google it or put it on chat GPT and learn about it and then immediately start a business. Then anybody can start a business, isn't it? Okay, so that's what I say. Become interested. Don't be overwhelmed by anything, including AI. AI is good. Befriend it. Okay, befriend it. Okay. Okay, but don't become so dependent on it that AI is not a solution for AI. Artificial intelligence is not a solution for natural stupidity, isn't it? So rise above that. Okay, you become intelligent yourself. Become so intelligent that you are able to use AI smartly, intelligently. Okay, that's when you will grow.
Thank you so much, sir. This entire podcast, you've enlightened us, you've given us new perspectives, and overall, we've learned a lot of lessons from you. Thank you so much for joining this.
Thank you so much. In fact, Suhas, I enjoyed doing this podcast. You are the youngest podcaster that I have dealt with so far. I have done
I'm
podcasts
honored.
of various flavors, but it is such a pleasure to talk to someone like you with bright eyes and looking forward to a brighter future. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.